Heard Senator Dole mention a slogan, "Just don't do it." Obviously, I think that's a veiled reference to the Reagan policy of just say no, which was really a joke on America, considering just recently we have the acknowledgement that a CIA-backed drug connection in Nicaragua basically flooded the inner cities of Los Angeles and San Francisco with what eventually turned out to be crack cocaine, which devastated, all of urban America and now suburban America. And on top of that, you have a Republican Congress that on the other end wants to limit spending for welfare. They basically created a problem and then they wanted to cap the solutions to the problem. Senator Dole doesn't seem to run away from any of the policies of the Reagan administration. In fact, he seems to run to it, not just with his slogans, but with veiled policies that the Reagan administration instituted. So that really bothers me. It doesn't seem like there's any concerted effort on his part to communicate a drug policy. It's more of an effort to discredit the Clinton administration. That really bothered me.
Tony, you said that you were sort of unswayed by this whole thing and that neither candidate was your choice. Why? I'm sort of curious about that.
I just have a problem with the two-party system as it exists in this country right now. I'm not a real big fan of Ross Perot, but I do see a need for a third, if not a fourth party. These particular political candidates, their campaigns are so orchestrated these days that they just speak to an issue, they speak to a constituency that their political consultants have told them, this is what we have to do today. There doesn't seem to be a consistent plan or a vision. There's a media campaign, and you see it from day one from the campaign season to November 3rd or November 4th, whatever it may be. I think you need other candidates to bring out issues that people don't want to talk about. And you don't see that. You don't see that tonight. You didn't see that tonight in this particular debate, and you probably won't see it for the rest of the campaign.
Is there one thing that would sway you in either direction?
I would like to see more vision from the Clinton campaign. I really don't see any hope for Bob Dole or Bob Dole's folks. I'd like to see a full range of thought from Bill Clinton, being that I think he's probably going to be president for the next 4 years. I'd like to really understand what he wants to do, not just what he says he thinks he needs to say to get elected. Tomorrow might be something else. I just need to see more.
Okay, let's go to we're going to individual questions now. Start with Michelle. Okay. First question is, which candidate has more vision and why?
For me personally, Clinton. The reason I say that is because of healthcare reform. I know that he tried to do healthcare as soon as he was elected, and it didn't pass. And the reason I feel strongly about this is because both my husband and I are students. We're in school, and I work part-time, and we don't have insurance, health insurance. So if something happens, then we're pretty much screwed. So that's important for us right now, being students. I feel that for years we've been working and we put into help, our taxes pay for a lot of programs, and that healthcare should be something that we should have. I'm not saying it should be for free. I'm not asking for Medicaid or anything like that, but I'm just asking to be able to afford something that we can live on. And Dole didn't answer the question at all tonight when he was asked about health care. He went to taxes, and then he started attacking Clinton for his health care reform plan. But to me, at least Clinton tried, and he has some sort of vision for it. Dole doesn't have that.
Which was the least important of everything that was talked about tonight, if you can remember? What did you say, you know what, I don't really care about that? I mean, was it foreign policy? Was it the Cuba question? And daily life? Is there something that we talked about tonight? You're just like your eyes glazed over a little bit.
Dole's tax cut, because I don't believe that it's workable. It sounds lovely. I mean, I would love to have a tax cut, but I don't think that it's workable. And I'm afraid of what's going to be cut to help pay for this. Again, we're students. Is it going to be student loans or scholarships? Or I'm afraid what's going to happen. So my eyes glazed over when he started talking about that. He mentioned it at least 20 times, I think. So that was it for me.
Coming off of the debate tonight, if you had one word to describe Bob Dole, what it would be?
Agent.
And what about Bill Clinton?
Strong.
Okay, fair enough. Next in line. Justin? Which candidate for you had a better vision of the future, or at least relayed that to you?
I'd have to say Clinton, clearly. I wouldn't even think more of a vision or a more clear vision. I would say a vision, period. Dole, to me, seemed like he's tried to attack the past, bring up the past. And that didn't really prove anything. That didn't show anything. That didn't show a vision. It didn't show anything to me. So I would have to say it has to be Clinton.
What was the most important issue talked about tonight? Which candidate did you feel? Talk about that issue.
Well, you could tell we're married, we think the same, and I would say healthcare, because that is a big issue, because a lot of people don't have it. I mean, if you're working, it's okay, but it depends on when you're working, because your contribution to the healthcare plans have become so exaggerated that sometimes you're working just for healthcare. I know people that are working, wives that are working strictly for healthcare for the family, and I think that's really ridiculous.
And what was the least important issue that was talked about tonight?
How President Clinton addressed President Bush in the '92 election. I think that was ridiculous to bring it up 2 or 3 times, as many times as he brought it up.
And one word to describe Bob Dole after tonight, after watching.
Jobless.
What about President Clinton?
President Clinton. I just address him as President Clinton.
Let's go with Tony.
That'll be suggested tomorrow. Jobless.
Tony, I sort of know how you feel about the vision, but just tell me again.
I don't see any vision on Bob Dole's part. I see, like Justin and Michelle said before, a rehashment of old ideas, more of an attack than new ideas to spark enthusiasm about this political process. So nothing really from the Dole campaign.
And Clinton, anything at all?
Yeah, from Clinton, I hear good ideas. I thought the health reform was an excellent idea in the '92 campaign. I thought the scope of it was much too big for non-experienced politicians to really execute. But the ideas are there. The execution, I don't know.
What about issues? What issues stood out in your mind as the most important to you personally, and which candidate do you think did the best job talking about it?
The biggest issue for me is education. I just think in this country, it's a shame. It's almost abhorrent that we have the educational system, the public educational system that we have, exists today. Not just on the elementary school level, but on the college level. Pretty soon, there won't be children to afford to go to college. I know in many European countries, free education is afforded to a lot of students. I don't understand why we can't get back to that in this country. And we really haven't addressed it too much in this campaign, but at least President Clinton has an idea that education is something that we need to do something about. Bob Dole seems to want to sweep it under the rug, wants to get rid of the Department of Education, seems to be against the National Education Agency. I see nothing there for Bob Dole. At least I see some daylight from Bill Clinton.
What was the least important issue or subject matter discussed tonight?
A question by the moderator about personal character. I don't care.
Why?
It doesn't matter to me whether somebody sleeps with somebody else or Whatever is in his personal life is in that person's personal life. Can you do the job? I'll say one thing about Bob Dole. He kept bringing up the point that this is important business. And it is. You want the person who's going to treat this and going to be as most qualified to handle the job as best as possible. If we start going into personal character issues, we'll never find anybody to be a president, male or female.
One word to describe Bob Dole after watching him.
Confused.
And Bill Clinton?
2 words, perform well.
George? Over to you. 1 second.
1 second. I'm gonna take this. Okay.
Which candidate to you had sort of the better vision of the future, and why?
Dole, I don't think had any vision. I think he was just there more or less on a mission. You know, how many hits can I get against Clinton to turn his supporters against him? He didn't bring up any new ideas. Clinton did a very good job of bringing up his track record, saying how how he's pretty much against education, how he's against, I guess, gun control in some form. He's just, to me, it was just bland. He just sat there. He tried a few attempts at humor, which, 1 or 2 were timely. The rest of them were, ambiguous. Early on in the debate, he made a lot of historical references, which, again, to me, is another hit against him and his hit against education. I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't even know the references he was making. Why? Because history, the way that it's being taught now in the schools, isn't where it should be.
And you've already stated that what the most important issue was, but tell me again and why, and who addressed it the best.
Well, I think Clinton obviously did a better job. I mean, he made references to his educational tax cut that he had promised. I believe he promised it in '92, where something, I can't remember the details right now. It's about the $10,000 tax break towards tuition and I guess taxes. And he said the same thing towards first-time home ownership. Again, I find these very appealing. I think most families will, and being that most families want to own their own homes, they want to send their kids to the best schools available. So, and these are important issues, I think, for everyone. Dole, I didn't see him say anything about these topics.
What was the least important subject or whatever that was discussed tonight between the 2 candidates? What did you care about the least that was asked or brought up? Or
well, I mean, it's I guess I'd say what is it? Again, I guess it's a cross between personal issues as well as I guess their personal views on how the president should handle the military. They were making references to Cuba, to Haiti, and to Bosnia. We both, at least I think people realize that Clinton or whoever's president doesn't get up in the morning and decides, I'm going to do this, I'm going to send my troops here. No, he gets together with a battery of his advisors, and it's all hashed out. And it's all a matter of also international public opinion. And these are important issues, but neither one did a good job, so it made it pointless.
one word to describe Bob Dole tonight.
Bland.
And Clinton?
Calm and self-assured.
Great. Which candidate had, in your opinion, the most vision?
I believe Clinton did, because he's been around to see what progress has been made, and he knows where he wants to go. He's in the middle of it. He knows what's been working and what hasn't been working, and he feels confident enough that he can continue to try. At least he's out there trying. He's not coming in new like Dole. Like 4 years ago, he was making all these promises and everything. he's there now. He's in the middle of it. Dole, what can he do but take over where Clinton has right now, and hopefully keep it strong and keep it going. But I think Clinton needs to finish what he started.
What's the most important issue talked about tonight, and who addresses it the best in your mind?
I thought it was education also. Health, yes, but that's going to be a constant battle. It's just as important as education, but you need to educate kids now for the future. I mean, the future is what's going to change everything, and hopefully health will be changed with those kids.
What issue interested you the least?
The personal, what they thought of each other. I couldn't, I'm glad they like each other. Hopefully they could, come up with some better solutions together, but it was like a constant battle on Dole's part.
One word to describe Bob Dole tonight.
Scary.
And what about President Clinton?
Aware, and he's trying to stay on the right track.
Okay. Mercedes? I know where you are. Don't get you started, right? Don't even get me started.
Look at me.
Who had the most vision for the country for the 21st century?
For the country, the vision would have to be Clinton. Clinton articulates, Clinton is a product of the baby boomers. He articulates what we want to hear, and I believe I'm part of the baby boomer. A lot of people here are not part of the baby boomer, and and Clinton is articulating what the baby boomers, what we were taught to articulate. So he does have a vision. He does have a vision of what's the future. He says the things. He changes a lot of his talk because that's the way the baby boomers were brought up.
And the most important issue?
Most important issue, of course, this has to do with health. I didn't feel that either one of them spoke well about the issue of health, of what they could do about the health. They just talked about the fact of saving Medicare, Medicaid, but they didn't really speak of the issue about health. But again, I have to give credit where Clinton tried to do something, and I continue to believe that he will continue to do there'll be some changes in that.
What issue interested you the least?
What interested me the least was the fact that when Dole continued to say that in 1992, I will continue to say, "You're Mr. President." You didn't say that to to President Bush.
And one word to describe Mr. Dole?
Small-hearted.
And what about President Clinton?
Large-hearted.
All right, you're it. Save the best for last.
I don't know about that.
One second. Okay. Which candidate, in your opinion, the best vision for our country for the 21st century?
Well, I thought Clinton was more. He was more articulate in outlining what his goals were. I couldn't get a clear idea of. To me, Senator Dole just did not outline what he wanted to do for the future. He just tried to pretty much attack President Clinton's, past. So I didn't really see any. I didn't get an outline of what he wanted to do for the future.
Which issue was the most important to you, and which candidate addressed it?
I think education. From what I get from Senator Dole is he wants to cut a lot of education, and I think it's important. In a lot of the urban, in the cities, you have overcrowding in schools, and it's public school system is pretty bad. I think that's a major issue.
Which issue interested you the least?
The least, it's kind of hard to say. I would probably say the environment is still pretty, serious issue, but it's actually, I don't even think Senator Dole even touched on the issue. Clinton, at least he touched on the environment, the drugs, health care. He outlined different issues. Senator Dole just tried to attack him.
One word for Senator Dole after tonight. What do you think?
I'd say waning in the polls.
And what about President Clinton?
I think he's got the momentum.
Is there, just one last question, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you guys saw tonight that maybe I didn't notice that was important to you, or some observation that maybe I didn't see? Anybody think of anything? Did I cover it all?
I think for me,
Hold on. Good. I'm glad I asked this question because I just don't want to make sure I miss anything.
when I was watching this debate, if you ever watch C-SPAN and they show the debates on the Senate floor, it's very similar as far as Senator Dole, what he does on the Senate floor, as what he did tonight. Very short, attacks on the other person or another senator, or some proposal in a bill that he just doesn't like. And he's very much the same person that you see in his old day-to-day job as you saw tonight. He didn't really give a long, extended answer to any one of the issues, I felt, and that's what I always seem to get from him. One-word comments or one slogan or, half sentences. And I think that's what's bothersome for America in trying to place some confidence in this man.
It's very blunt. He's just monotone.
Okay.
Dole is very monotone. My way is the right way. Very blunt. Sort of like I'm the child and he's the parent or the principal. Just direct in that tone. And then like now you have to realize they're actors. They want you to believe that they can do the job. So you have to go beyond that.
I've also. I'd like to see the format changed. I'm sure some people appreciate this format, but I would like the people to speak to the candidate and to the president. I think it's very important that our issues get up in front of their faces and they answer our questions. I think the moderator asked some questions and they went around the corner. They didn't really answer the question. And if a citizen like myself was there, I would say, excuse me, but that wasn't my question. I want you to answer my question, and I think it's important.
What question would you have asked?
Whoa. If I was to ask a question, I think my question would be, especially to Mr. Dole, is to put yourself in my place, to put yourself in my position. And I'll explain what my position is about going to school, about wanting a family. And besides your 15% tax hike, let's say that I felt that it wouldn't work, what can you possibly tell me that would make me want to vote for you? So far, this is what you're saying, and this is my position. In my position, I would vote for Clinton. What can you give me? What is it that you're trying to tell me? What are you trying to sell me? Because I'm not believing what you're saying, so sell me yourself. That I would do.
Does anybody else if anybody else had a chance to ask a question, does anybody have a question that maybe you didn't hear tonight, an issue that wasn't talked about? One thing that wasn't talked about a lot was crime. And that usually is very high in the polls with everybody. Do you feel that was sort of brushed over? Anybody?
I think that when Dole talked about Giuliani, he's mayor of New York, that's where we live. I think that the way that they talk about crime and murder rate going down, I think it's important for us to find out how do they, what's murder to them? I mean, it may sound like a stupid question, but I think that they're now trying to lower their standards with murder so they can say, oh, well, that's not, right, that's not considered a murder because it's not this or it's not that. So I think before you just throw out that crime has gone down, I think we should find out what the criteria is.
Anybody else have any other thoughts? Oh, okay.
I don't know. I thought that Senator Dole kept going off on tangents. He just wasn't sticking to his rebuttal with President Clinton. Like when he had to rebut him, he didn't stick to answering the type of questions that needed to be answered. He just tried to come up with something out of left field. He just went off in complete tangent. That's what I got from the whole thing. He just wasn't as focused.
Says you were going to say something.
I was going to say that it's always been said that Dole feels that I've been there the longest, so I should be the president. And that's what really comes off, is that I've been in the Senate longest, I've been around the longest, now it's my turn to be a president. And I think that that's not something that you can campaign on. I think that's the whole issue, that he feels that that's an entitlement, that he's been through all this, now he should become the president.
Anybody else?
I just have a small comment.
Great.
I just figure, I know this is the format, a two-party debate, what is it, 60 minutes or whatever it is, 60 an hour long, but I figure it might have been a little nicer if the other candidates were allowed, even if they're not potential presidential hopefuls, but at least they would get a little more stimulus and maybe ask different questions or address different issues that these two candidates, the main candidates, Republican and the Democratic candidate, would have to address. If Ralph Nader was there or Ross Perot, we might have just heard something besides catchphrases.
Great. I'm sure you all have to get up early for work tomorrow, so we'll back up and go.